Welcome back, everybody. Super Bowl 54 here in South Florida. Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690. Brett Martineau, Austin Lane, and we have a lot of the ESPN personalities stopping by here this week, which is pretty cool. And a special thanks to this gentleman right here. He called into our one-year anniversary show a couple weeks back. It's Mike Golic Jr. What's up, man?
Not much. Glad to talk to you guys in person this time. I saw the live stream of that anniversary show, and I said it was kind of weird. I watched after. I was like, it was me watching you guys with my disembodied voice. So now I get to be a body here, which is cool.
Yeah. Hey, listen, as we go along in this thing, we'll be able to throw maybe a picture of Mike Golic Jr. up on that.
There we go.
I've not been better,
And
right?
you know what? That's the interesting part is now I get that. Every once in a while, they'll use an old headshot from like 40 pounds ago. And I'm like, listen, guys, I'm still single right now, so I need best foot forward every time here.
Well, then we did you a favor today because we were finding a picture for you today. And, well, Stuart over there found one of you eating a donut. Now, we chose not to use that.
Yeah, you know what? Like,
Probably the best.
eventually, you can't outrun what the last name comes with, and it comes with a fair amount of very public donut consumption.
I mean, I feel like we just go on Twitter, we go on Facebook, we just pull the profile picture off you, and we're good to go, right?
There we
I mean,
go.
that's
I would say
that's
I'm
what we're
basically
doing.
putting like adult thirst traps on there anyway,
Of
so
course,
it works
without
out
a doubt,
perfect.
yeah.
This sounds like such a former athlete right here. Austin Lane said, yeah, just go do this.
Yeah.
But you're not doing it.
Well, hey, man,
let's do it.
hey, you can tell me to do it, and I'll do it. I'm sorry I thought of it when we're doing it live on the show.
Photoshop?
Yeah, man,
Listen.
yeah, I got it, man.
You know what? Coachable, though. You can show
Very
me
coachable.
how, but why would I
Exactly.
want to waste our time when we've all got a job in this? We can be teammates about it.
Spoken like a true athlete, Brent. You see that?
Sometimes I got to keep him in his place, though.
It's hard, I know, I understand.
All right, are we comparing tattoos right now or a little bit later?
Well, he's covering them all up, man. He's
I know.
being a little bit discreet about it. Dude, it's Miami, man. We're the you know the.
Oh,
sleeveless
believe me,
shirts and
I've
tank
got
tops.
the cutoff. So when I
Okay,
leave here
okay.
early, you know what? Like in the morning, it was a little cooler. I was lied to. I was told that inside the convention center, like it's going to be a little chilly. You might want to bring a quarter zip. It has adopted the humidity inside here. I have been sweating all morning, so now I can't take this off because I am sweat stains underneath this. So that is my only concern. But maybe I'll go full tank top tomorrow.
Well, as far as the tattoos are concerned, too, you talk about Fitz. You know, Fitz is a guy I spoke to a couple minutes ago, and, you know, that's a guy that's got tattoos, is proud to show them off and everything. When you first started this gig on the radio, you know, and on TV, were they kind of, you know, skeptical about, hey, man, long sleeves, you know, let's cover the tattoos up a little bit? Or were they pretty like, you know what, go ahead and show them, man, be proud?
You know what? The thing that surprised me most is no one really said anything one way or the other. And I had been so conditioned, like, growing up, like, you know what? Like, you don't get tattoos below the elbow. And, like, I had never gotten them when I was in college or playing. I'd never got anything below the elbow. That didn't happen until 2 years ago for me where I got the forearm because I was like, you know what? No one said anything to me, and if they want to fire me for that, like if I'm on TV and going to be in a suit, it'll cover it up. But if they want to fire me for that, then they were probably going to find a reason to fire me anyway. So I did. But it is interesting. Like now, and Fitz is a great example. Like we've done some stuff with Outside the Lines, and Jason still does, where they're like, can you wear something and show the tattoos? We really want to get the personality out there. So it has been an amazing turn of events in the last 5-6 years.
Well, as
I like
we
that.
continue this part of the conversation, we have a bet on the show.
Yeah.
See,
Check this out, man.
I don't have a tattoo.
Oh, yes.
But
I like where this is going.
He's the outlier.
It could
He's an
take
outlier.
a while. I'm not sure we'll still have careers by the time it happens, but hopefully maybe with ESPN and your help and others' help. But if we become number one in the ratings in Jacksonville,
Oh, yes.
I have to get a tattoo. Now, this isn't like a one-day thing, by the way. I mean, you got to be – we're number one, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to
We're carrying the
confidently
Lombardi
stride
trophy.
out and say, yes, we are number
Exactly.
one and it not change with the wins.
So
Absolutely.
we feel like we're a year old. I mean, we got a little time, but we're on
slowly
track.
building. We're slowly building.
And so what tattoo
Here's-
would I get and
well,
where would I get it?
I was going to say,
obviously-
so do you have any ideas here? Because I feel
Here
like
we
you've
go.
got some
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about this because I've been foreseeing this every time I go to sleep at night. You know, and I wake up in the morning and I visualize
Thank
it.
you for visualizing my body.
Dude, it's the power of visualization. Hey, you know what? Now, if you want to get on the ab roll a little bit, that's okay too. But what I'm saying is, obviously, you have to go with the ESPN 690 logo, right?
course.
Because that's what we stand for. That's what this is all about. So he has to get that tattooed. And when we asked him the first time, I was surprised at where he wants to get it done. He said his ribs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is the most aggressive spot
Yes.
to get a tattoo. It is the most painful spot, I
I
think.
have seen that reduce grown men so
Yeah.
close to tears. And some of the toughest guys I've ever met who decided to go rib cage. You, my friend, are either a savage or the bravest man I've ever met, and I'm not sure how thick the
Or
line
he's
is.
just super clueless.
I'm
Yes.
just, well, a bit clueless and a lot tougher than you guys think I am. Damn it.
Okay.
That's it.
You know what? That's fine. I would like to be next to you in the chair and see if you have that same energy kept when the needle finally hits the skin.
Probably not. Hey, what do you say we talk about this game?
Yeah,
What do you
throw
think?
it in there.
Chiefs 49ers. I've said for the last couple of weeks, I don't think we could have gotten maybe one notch above this, depending if you think the Ravens and Saints are in this category. But for an NFL on this stage and this kind of game where a lot of people don't even know which way it will go, high score, low scoring, San Fran's defense, Chiefs offense, I think they got one heck of a game for Super Bowl 54.
I do, and I think, you know what, it's interesting that you brought up the Saints and the Ravens specifically, because I feel like you go Saints, Ravens, and Chiefs, you go, all right, I know the identity of that team pretty firmly and all this one. The Niners feel pretty variable because we forget during the regular season when they brought Emmanuel Sanders over after the trade deadline, they were going downfield to that guy often. He was a legitimate threat there. Deebo Samuel, the receiving options, like they had that facet to their game, and then they got to the postseason like, all right, we'll throw it 20 times in 2 or 3 games and call it a day. So I think not knowing what you're going to get adjustment-wise from Kyle Shanahan makes this so interesting and makes it so hard to read because we've seen them win without having to use the forward pass. Like, Newt Rockne is somewhere like, oh, man, maybe we didn't need to waste time with this.
Wishbone. But, you talk about San Francisco, though, and it's like you mentioned. They go to Washington early in the season. They score 9 points, and guess what? They win the game. They travel to New Orleans. They put up over 50 points, and guess what? They win the game. So they're so diverse in how they can beat you. On the other side of the ball, Kansas City, Andy Reid, right? And we were talking about this stat a couple days ago. Andy Reid right now, after the bye week, is 18-3. And to me, that's the stat that I can't look away from. I actually had the opportunity to play for Andy Reid a little bit. The guy's an offensive genius, watching film, prepping for the team. I just feel like, is this the Chiefs' game to lose? Because when you're 18-3 after a bye week, that stat jumps out to me big time.
Yeah, you have such an impressive, and I think both of these teams, you talk about decided schematic advantage. Like you look, Next Gen Stats does this awesome job of charting, all right, how open are guys when they have made catches downfield? And in terms of yard per attempt, no one has gotten more wide open throws on, more yards per attempt on wide open throws than the Niners. And the Chiefs, number 3 in plays with wide open throws and yardage from wide open throws. So scheme-wise, you have such a huge advantage with Andy at the helm there. I think that difference combined with what Mahomes can do, which is, all right, when all of that planning doesn't go well and you're supposed to take a loss, you're supposed to take a loss of down in distance, or you're in a bad situation, he makes up for that. Like 3rd and 15 plus doesn't matter. There's almost some games, and you hear quarterbacks say, well, I'm not, I don't feel right until I get hit. It's almost like there's some games where the Chiefs offense doesn't feel right until it's like 3rd and 12 plus. And they're like, oh, okay, I know how to do this now. I know how to break your back and break your will as a defender. And so I think the combination of that planning and that ability is just, it's too much to beat in 4 quarters.
So I talked to Matt Patricia at the Senior Bowl, actually, and I want to pick his brain a little bit about Patrick Mahomes, right? Because if you go back to the regular season, the Lions did a pretty good job of shutting Mahomes down. I don't think he had a touchdown that entire game, which for Patrick Mahomes is a bad game, let's be honest here. And I asked Matt Patricia, like, how do you stop Patrick Mahomes? Like, how did you guys do it and actually make it a competitive game? And he told me we weren't trying to stop Patrick Mahomes. We were trying to stop Andy Reid. So from that perspective, how much of this is Andy Reid? It's almost like the Bill Belichick, Tom Brady thing, right? Where is Tom Brady really that great, or is Bill Belichick make him great? How do you feel about Patrick Mahomes? Is he really that once-in-a-generational type of player, the MVP, or is he a result of Andy Reid's system?
I think talent-wise, Patrick Mahomes is definitely a cut above the rest. But you also like certain players are going to be very good to great wherever they are. Patrick Mahomes would be a playoff caliber quarterback and probably a guy who's leading the league in something in any location that you dropped him in. Patrick Mahomes is a league MVP and has a chance to win a Super Bowl in his 3rd year and his 2nd as a starter because he was paired with that. The same thing with Brady and Belichick and that. And so I think stopping Andy is interesting. So Dan Orlovsky was talking about how teams had, really beat the Niners in the past and the teams that have had success, teams with quarterbacks that can move around and teams that are RPO heavy, because the Niners play all that zone defense. And, all right, you can beat zone, getting the ball out quick in those RBOs, make them play man-to-man, and then who's going to be able to stick a team like the Chiefs and teams like, teams that have the secondary arsenal, kind of like Detroit did, kind of like we've seen with New England, some of those better groups. When you can then flex and stick them man-to-man and all of that, you've got an advantage. And that's kind of how you beat Andy Reid, because all that happens is if you give him one thing early on and decide to take something away, all right, I want to take away the deep passing game. I'll get it out underneath, and these guys will yak you to death. And so that is beating Andy Reid, and I would say a huge part of this.
Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690. We are at Super Bowl 54 here in South Florida. Brett Martin, Austin Lane, Mike Golic Jr. from ESPN. You hear him every morning on ESPN 690, 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. With his dad and also Trey Wingo and other contributors. Good to have Mike Golic Jr. with us. All right, we went tattoos, we went hardcore football. Let's go deep dive as we end this thing. And this NFLPA and NFL owners battle that's about to take place and kind of is already. as two former players, if you guys were in the room and I was kind of tutoring you guys up on, hey, the NFLPA, the CBA, we're going to go to battle here. Mm-hmm. How stuck in the ground would you be? And how stuck in the ground would you be specifically on the 17th game of an NFL season that the owners would like?
I think as stuck in the ground as I can be until, I would be as stuck in the ground as I would be on the Cincinnati Bengals and their first overall pick. Meaning I am absolutely 100% not trading this away unless you offer me more money than God and more picks than I can say no to. Yeah. And if you're the players, that's what it comes down to is there enough financial incentive and I think the healthcare incentive? Because the one thing the players have always talked about, and you hear it from former players, is the idea of taking care of guys after they're done playing and making sure, all right, we've got these medicals so locked up, like Marshawn Lynch told everyone, take care of your mentals, take care of your chickens, and make sure your body is in a good place. And so I think if all of a sudden there's some give in those areas, maybe you're a little more receptive to that idea of the 17th game. Maybe then it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a player or a former player like I was, I mean, they always preach player safety as the top priority. Well, it's hard to preach it as the top priority then add another game to it. And I understand you're implementing rules. The practices now are a little, they're a little easier than they were when I played back with real two-a-days. But at the same time, it's hard to preach player safety if you add another game. So, it's like he said, where if you add an incentive, if you add more money, obviously that's one thing. Maybe if they come around with like the medical marijuana, maybe if you do something like that as well.
Which it looks like it's headed that way.
Which we'll see what happens with that. But if you kind of meet the players halfway, then they're open to listen and get the discussion talked about. But you just can't throw 17 games on the table and expect the player to be cool with it.
Yes, 100%.
One last thing from that standpoint. Are you invested in it as a former player in how this goes about? I mean, do you care that much about it, even though you're not playing anymore?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think you always want to see better for the guys that come next. My dad, when he was a part of the Players Union, was a part of a strike, was a part of those guys, watch guys cross the picket line, but fought for so much. And you see every generation of players kind of standing on the shoulders of the guys before. And so you hope, and it's tough because the careers are so short, that these guys can still look at this and accomplish it and keep the game going in a direction, like you mentioned there, where safety is still at the core of this. And I know that is always the fight for the players, and one that I know in a lot of ways people will slander that 2011 CBA, but a lot of the measures they put in there, and I know talk to Ryan Clark and those guys all the time, really feel like they helped in the safety aspect of things.
Absolutely. And I think if you played in the league, whether, you played for 10 years or you had a couple cups of coffee like I did at some places, like you're part of that brotherhood, you're part of that fraternity, and that lasts forever. So you want to see it go forward. You want to see players get the best benefits, get the best help and everything, and you want to see them succeed. So I'm all for it. I'm all for doing what I can do to help the cause.
And that's what you should be probably in most businesses, especially one as violent as this one and, as lucrative as this one has become in our country. Mike Golic Jr., thanks, man. Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you here at Super Bowl 54.
Pleasure. Looking forward to being there when you get tatted up.
Yeah, we'll invite you. By the way, you got a Mina Kimes hat on. We might have to give him a hat of ours, right? I mean, we're not as good.
Oh, there we go. Listen,
hit him up, man.
Listen, as a balding, now 30-year-old, hats are my friend. And so if you've got one, I will wear it. That's how the game goes.
Before you go. All right. Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690 rolls on from Super Bowl